Item 47 is the presentation on 2021 redistricting requirements and provide direction on redistricting process.
Good afternoon again, Supervisors. David Villanueva, Deputy County Executive over Administrative Services. I had an introduction, but I'll keep it short given the hour. To Supervisor Natoli, you asked for some data as it related to populations by district and by the county at our April 6th meeting, and you and I had a conversation later. That data wasn't available at the printing of this material, but the NDCR consultant has brought the data and they'll be sharing it with you during their presentation. The other questions or the other comments and direction that we got from your board was, as we looked at meetings and to do more than just the minimum as far as reaching out and having, I think somebody termed a decentralized meetings and also getting out there. Our presentations will touch on that. Not only will they touch on those, they'll touch on the language barriers. I think there were some questions about language and what languages we're going to be providing and how people get updated. So I think between Kim Nava and Courtney Bailey are experts in those areas. They will be presenting some information as it relates to that. So I would just conclude by saying we're very interested in hearing the board's feedback on this material. We asked the board, and this is in your board material, that the board provide direction on how you would like us to manage the redistricting process. We made some assumptions in some of the presentations, but we hope that's confirmed once you take your vote after the presentations and public feedback. And in addition to that, NDC will be going over some of those district processes in their presentation. So that concludes my comments, or my shortened comments. And with that, I would like to introduce the County Redistricting Consultant, which is National Demographics Corporation. Dr. Douglas Johnson is the president of NDC, and he's here in chamber with us. Dr. Justin Levitt, vice president, is on the phone, or it should be on the phone, or will be on the phone. And the last person is Doug Yoakum, who is a consultant also for NDC, and he is in the chambers with us. So thank you, and here we go for redistricting.
Thank you, Dave. Good afternoon, gentlemen.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for your patience in this afternoon.
Let me get organized here for just a second. Madam Chair and members of the board, I'm Doug Yoakum, a consultant with National Demographics Corporation. My colleague Doug Johnson is here. He's the president of our company. I will start with a little bit of the timeline that we've outlined in consultation with your staff as to how this is going to be done. But please interrupt us for questions as we go along, because I'm sure that something will occur to you as this happens. So on page 1, this one? Yeah. This is the timeline that we've established, and it's complying with the California Fair Map Act, which was enacted by the legislature last year, which tells counties and cities how they're required to do this now and within what timelines. We're starting today, May 4th, with a presentation to outline this. And the next step, as your staff will describe to you, is to start an outreach program to establish and encourage people in your districts, either groups or individuals, who want to get engaged in this to please do so, and we'll provide them with workshops and meetings in which they can do that. So June 8th then, after your staff has initiated the process of getting people involved, you'll have your first official board meeting. And the state requires you to have 4 official meetings. And this will be your first one, June 8th. And that's just to hear initial public input as to how they think how they think the process should go and what might their districts look like.
Excuse me, Supervisor Cerna.
See what happens when you invite us to interrupt you. On that particular date, June 8th, you mentioned it'll be the first opportunity to hear public input on communities of interest. I guess it's going to be very important for us to understand how is that legally described. and I know you're probably going into this in your presentation, but one of the very specific things I'm interested in, and it came up last time I went to this exercise 10 years ago, was that I believe at the time there wasn't a formal legal definition of community of interest as it affected the LGBTQ community. And we kind of used surrogates to understand generally where in Sacramento County there was geographically some element of common community interest around that particular demographic. But do you see us before June 8th getting a clear, firm understanding of what doesn't legally and what does legally constitute a community interest, or what we can acknowledge, perhaps even anecdotally, as a community of interest?
I think that not by June 8th, but maybe by your second or third meeting, when you actually start delineating lines on a map, that you will know by that time, because we're going to describe to you, and your staff is going to describe to you workshops that we plan to have in each of your individual districts, where people can come in and say, here's what my interest is, here's where my neighborhood is, here's where my community is, and then they can comment and say whether they want to be in one district, whether they want to be two, or however they want to be treated in the process. And then you, as the decision makers, will decide where to put those communities.
I mean, just add on the data side, you may remember 10 years ago there was a very innovative database of the state registered domestic partnerships. Because back then...
That was my reference to surrogate.
Yeah. So now, of course, for very good reasons, the domestic partnership list isn't so useful anymore, because now we actually have marriage and those issues. So a good policy advance for the state has made the data less reliable. So there are various data surrogates we can try, but none of them are very good. It's much more, as Doug was saying, it's much more, let's get those folks out here, let's hear from them, and let's hear from the residents how they view those neighborhoods.
So for instance, and I'll be quiet and get back to your presentation, but for instance, though, at those meetings in each of the districts, if we heard from, let's just say, by example, a group of LGBTQ activists and say, well, we believe that neighborhood X is really kind of, represents a congregation of our community, and here's where we generally think kind of the boundaries are. That's where we can kind of take that in, even though it may not be not carry any legal weight in terms of the quote-unquote qualifications of community of interest. That could be something that we could very well take into account and let it affect our judgment about how best to rearrange the boundaries, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
As the staff will describe to you in their presentation, they initially viewed two virtual hearings in the June period, and then in June and July, at least one workshop in each one of your districts that would invite people in to say what their communities of interest are and how they'd like to be treated in the process. And then August 3rd, we have scheduled your second official board hearing, again, to receive input based on what we've heard from those meetings that we just described.
August 3rd or
August 10th.
August 10th.
What did I say?
It's on the screen.
You said the 3rd.
Yeah.
I think.
Oh, August 10th. Apparently you don't meet on the 3rd. Then mid or late August is when we expect to get actual data from the Census Bureau. I'll quickly say that we all know why the Census Bureau the census is late this year. We've all heard it. The pandemic had an effect, and it affects everybody's timeline. And so now we're all planning to get the real data in mid-August to late August. And then the state has a process that they will go through because we're required by the Fair Maps Act to use the state data, and they will massage it and do what they need to do to it, and that'll be ready, we hope, sometime in September. So that's when we that's when we'll have real data to use and start working with, and that will be a very important time. And then your third hearing we've scheduled for November 2nd, and that would, there's a requirement in the Fair Maps Act that you have one of your hearings away from your usual time period, like right now. You have it in the evening or on a weekend, and so we've scheduled November 17th, which is the date after, which is the date for your first reading of an actual ordinance. So by that time, we will have made some decisions on actual lines. And we've scheduled December 7th for the second reading, with the caveat that there's a bill moving in the legislature right now that would perhaps allow you to do this by resolution rather than ordinance, and that gives us about 7 days of extra time to do some consideration and not having to do it as an ordinance. But your statutory deadline is December 15th. That's a certain number of days prior to the June 2022 election, where you're required to have your lines in place so your registrar can put together the precincts, and your candidates can have an opportunity to actually look at the lines and decide whether or not they're going to run. So December 15th is the absolute deadline. If you don't meet it, you have to file a declaration with your Superior Court to have them do it. So the decision you need to make today is how you're going to do this. And there are several options. The first option is to, and it has to do with whether or not you want to have a commission help you do this process. And the first option is to not do that, to have no commission and to have your board manage the process yourself. The second option is an advisory commission, and it can be chosen by you as long as they're not direct staff or family. And they will come up with, they will go through public hearings, we would imagine, and then they would come to you with recommendations on what they think some of the lines should look like. Let me jump to option 4 before I go to the hybrid, because option 4 is the complete opposite of that, which is an independent commission where you as supervisors set up a process for them to be selected, and then you would have no involvement at all with redistricting after that. The independent commission would be the one that would hold the hearings, make the decision, and send that decision to the registrar of voters. The board of supervisors would have no involvement in an independent commission. Then the third option in between that is a hybrid option where you don't appoint the members. You establish a system where the members of a commission would be appointed, and then they would make a couple of recommendations to you, and you would vote up or down on one of those recommendations, but you could not change it. So you have those options of how to do redistricting, and that decision we believe should be made today. Because if you do that, these are estimated time frames. An advisory committee would probably be 4-5 weeks to set up. You'd have to make appointments. They would have to get established, and then they would have to decide how they're going to make recommendations to you. And then when they make recommendations to you, you would still have to hold these 3 hearings to accept or reject their recommendations. The hybrid and independent commission option would take longer, because you'd have to set up a system where they would be selected independent of each one of you, and then they would require time to get organized and then make their decisions on what districts should look like, and then either recommend them to you or adopt them themselves as a independent commission. So whatever happens, these are the rules that must be followed according to the new state law that tells cities and counties how to do redistricting. First and foremost is all the districts must be, and I put it in quotes, substantially equal. And that means that they pretty much have to be equal to each other. We're not going to, I wouldn't recommend that you go any further than 1% past the ideal population. It's just...
Excuse me, Supervisor Natoli.
I saw your face. Don.
Yeah, well, because, again, I've been through this a few times, and I get what you're going to recommend to us, but if you look at the 2010 process, and again, it was very iterative and very engaging, so you're saying that that's what you wouldn't recommend. What is what's allowed by law? I thought there was a variation of up to 10% from highest to lowest, and, you know, working to try to get as close to equal as possible. But that's a point in time.
I'll let Mr. Johnson answer.
Okay,
that.
yeah,
He
because
has
I'm
the best
curious
answer
about
to
that. Yeah,
No, you described exactly right, which is if you're within 10%, what the lawyers call presumptively constitutional. So the benefit of the doubt is on your side. But the closer you get to 10%, the riskier the map gets. We also have a little bit of a weird situation with the census, as you're aware, and there's some cases over census data. So the farther away from 10% we stay, the closer to zero we stay, the safer the map will be. So our recommendation would be to stay within 1% or so. If keeping a city together or meeting some other criterion means going a little over that, certainly you can do that. But that's our goal, would be to keep it very close to zero. But you're right. The presumptively constitutional range is 10% between the smallest and largest.
okay. And you brought some data to kind of show what some of the
Yeah, we'll describe that in just a minute.
projected was previously with the current maps, with the current district boundaries. Okay, thanks.
The second most important criteria is compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act. And I think we all know what that means, is that we cannot discriminate against people of a community in order to deprive them of the opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. And that's something that we'll describe also in a minute, how we'll go through that. And the California criteria, which is in the Fair Map Act, are these districts must be contiguous. They have to be connected in some way, shape, or form. The neighborhoods and communities of interest that we hear about during the process need to be respected to the extent we can. And then there's a definition in here of socioeconomic and geographic definitions of areas of groups of people that should be kept together. There is a definition in the MAP Act that I don't have it with me, but I think we can read it to you if you need to know exactly what it is. Importantly for this county, I think, is rule number 3, that to the extent possible, we need to keep cities and census-designated places together. Orangevale is a census-designated place. Citrus Heights is a city. Folsom is a city. Rancho Murieta is a census-designated place, as is Vineyard. Vineyard is a census-designated place. So these have lines on the map that we can see, because the Census Bureau have designated them and named them. And we all know where the cities are, of course. But census-designated places, the law says, to the extent possible, we should keep them together as well.
I'm going to ask you about Antelope after Supervisor Cerna asks his question.
No, I'm glad you have the qualifier to the extent possible. It wasn't in your slide, and I was going to raise it just because I don't know how unique it is, but here in Sacramento, obviously our largest city is more than the number of, it has a population greater than the number of people that we shoot for in each individual supervisorial district, so it necessarily has to be divided somehow.
That is correct.
So I just want to emphasize that's not an absolute given the unique circumstances
all
of
five
different
of
counties.
these have the phrase "to the extent possible" inserted in front of them. So population is important. Federal Voting Rights Act is absolutely mandated, and then to the extent possible, we do these 5 things. The fourth of which is to have easily identifiable boundaries. And the law states that those can be rivers, freeways, large main arterial streets. In other words, make it as easy as possible for people to understand where their districts lie, so that the lines don't meander through neighborhoods where they can't understand what district they're in or what the districts look like when they look on a map. So that's also in the law.
Sorry, Chair Frost, did you have a question too?
No, I think he answered it when he answered Supervisor Frost. There are a couple little areas that got divided between 2 or 3 supervisors, and it seems like it's not as ideal.
Right.
But I don't know how you can avoid it, just like
Right,
he
and
said.
we'll see
so.
where the lines lie at the end of this process. And we'll hear what folks think they should happen in their particular communities. The last one is compactness, and that simply means that you cannot bypass a large population in order to get to another one. That's in the law, and we'll have to assess our map as we go along based on that as well. And there's last one in there it's a strict prohibition. Your map cannot favor or discriminate against a political party. Over on the right-hand side of this slide, we have some traditional principles that are often mentioned. They're not specified in the Act, and they are not prohibited by the Act. So they are something that you folks can keep in mind as you go along. Respect voters' choices. In other words, don't put two members in one district, if at all possible. That's a principle you can abide by. You can look at future population growth. In other words, lower the count in one district because you anticipate an amount of growth there, and underpopulate a neighboring district because they have growth in it. I may not have said that right. But you have that option to look at. And another one that you should look at is minimizing what we call deferral, and that is people who are expecting an election in 22 should expect to have an election in 22 and not be deferred to a district where their election is put off for 2 years. So now Mr. Johnson will explain some of the data that we'll look at in order to do this and some of the technology that we'll be using.
Thank you. So I see on the next slide, when we talk about the Voting Rights Act, so the next maps I'm going to show you are related to how do we look at the Voting Rights Act and these other criteria. So the Federal Voting Rights Act has what they call protected classes. There's very technical definition, but it really boils down to Latinos, Asian Americans, African Americans, and Native Americans. And so what we're looking for are neighborhoods. We're not just looking for an individual census block or anything like that, but we're looking for neighborhoods that are heavily one of those protected class groups. And then, as Doug said, being careful not to divide that neighborhood in a way that dilutes their voting strength. And so you can see both in the county-wide map on the right, and then kind of a zoom in on the city on the left. We did the zoom in because when you look at the county-wide map, what really pops out at you are the green and the big green census blocks out in the rural areas. But as you're all aware, there are very few people in those areas. So, for example, the green, as you can see, is 50 to 65% Latino, but that far bottom right corner one, it's probably 60% of 5 people or something like that. So what we're really interested in is...
I can assure you there's more than that.
Well,
It may not be a large number, but it's more than...
Yeah, that's why they tend to be big census blocks, though, is because there are so few people in them. Otherwise, the Bureau would break them into smaller pieces. So what we're really looking for is pockets where there's enough people in the protected class to influence the demographics of the supervisorial district. So 5 or 10 or even 100 people really aren't going to influence the demographics of the district as a whole. So we're looking more for the populated areas that are in those different groups. So in the case of Latinos, just so you understand the color scheme on this, the purples, as you can see to the left, we call it a heat map. Purple is below 25% of the citizen voting age population, or CVAP. We look at that number because it's what the courts look at as your eligible voter population, as citizens of voting age, and that data does come from the Census Bureau. So below 25% is purple, 25 to 50% are the shades of blue, and then the areas where Latinos are majority are green, yellow, and red. So you get a couple of pockets, obviously. If you look up by I-80, you get up to the South Natomas area, you get a population up there that's in the blues and greens for the most part, a couple of little yellow ones in there where there are majorities. And then you get a little bit of the pocket down at the southern area as well of that inset map. So those are the main concentrations we're looking at for Latinos, of being sure that we don't divide up either of those areas in a way that would dilute their voting strength. And these maps are handy to highlight which neighborhoods it is. But I do want to emphasize, you saw the no racial gerrymandering factor. While we can't divide up those areas in a way that dilutes their voting strength, we also can't essentially draw by colors. So you can't take a pen and just go around the yellow and red blocks. You still have to focus on neighborhoods and draw based on neighborhoods. For Asian Americans, similar map, the same percentage ranges here from purple to red. You can see you've got obviously North Natomas by the 5 there, a lot of Asian American population. And then I had to do 2 inset maps just because the area is farther apart. You get down to, of course, in Elk Grove. And around Elk Grove, you get a number of pockets that are very heavily Asian American. As we get farther into the process, we'll actually have interactive maps where folks can zoom in and zoom out and see the details of individual neighborhoods and type in an address and see the demographics of their specific neighborhood. Then for African Americans, you can see we don't get any areas that really pop to the degree of especially Asian Americans, but you can see a couple of pockets. Again, you get the Del Paso Heights area up by I-80, and then Meadowview in the lower part of the inset map, generally describing where you can see pockets where you do get some blues and greens that are more African American than other areas. So those are the big population concentrations that drive the Voting Rights Act compliance analysis. And again, the numbers play into the bigger picture that Doug described of the real goal is to make sure we don't divide up these protected class groups in a way that dilutes their voting strength. And we do it neighborhood by neighborhood. So getting back to neighborhoods, and the next couple slides are going to be the heart and soul of these community outreach meetings and the community input, especially early on before we have official draft maps going. But first of all, as Doug described, the Fair Maps Act has now given legal stature to neighborhoods. So if you have a neighborhood, it, to the degree possible, should not be divided. So if you have a city-recognized neighborhood, county-recognized neighborhoods, wherever the definition of neighborhoods comes from, neighborhoods need to be kept together. There's a little bit of an oddity in how the law is worded, though, because it talks about neighborhoods and communities of interest, and then defines communities of interest. So it implies they might be different things, although it's not clear. So neighborhoods definitely have to be kept together. And then we get into communities of interest that might be larger than a given neighborhood. So folks may think of themselves as being residents of one small neighborhood around a park or however they define their neighborhood, but also part of a larger community of interest. And you see on the screen the definition. The state has now written this definition into the statute, into the Fair Maps Act, where a community of interest is a population that shares common social or economic interests that should be included within a single district for the purposes of effective and fair representation. So it used to be that we would get input on communities of interest and then ask a second question of, okay, that's your community of interest. Do you benefit from being in one seat together or divided up? Sometimes downtown areas, industrial parks, major economic centers might actually prefer to be in multiple districts. Sometimes they did. But that was a question we'd asked before. Now this is an odd situation where they might have a shared economic interest, for example, but want to be kept in multiple seats. Oops, sorry. So under this law, that would not be a community of interest. By definition, a community of interest is an area that benefits from being together in a single seat. Somewhat humorously, this, and sometimes seriously, this comes up a lot with large retirement communities. We've had a number of hearings where they said, our turnout is 99%. If you put us all in one seat, you're wasting our votes. So they actually want to be in multiple seats. And by just about every definition, they look like a neighborhood or a community of interest, but they make a very clear argument that they do not benefit from being packed into a single seat. So that's where we're looking for the community to weigh in. And that's where you'll get tons of input. One of our staff, Dr. Daniel Phillips, wrote a PhD on communities of interest in the Santa Barbara City redistricting. And he actually did a survey and overlaid the maps of communities of interest. And somewhat to your point, Supervisor Cerna, you end up with just a ton of overlapping circles because almost nobody defines a neighborhood the same way. And so the decision comes when you have to make decisions about where do we really consider that boundary. So we'll get into all that with the mapping stages. And then I talked about this a little bit, and Doug touched on this a bit, and Supervisor Cerna, you mentioned this too. What is your community? It could be just about anything. The key thing is for redistricting, it needs to be geographically defined. So we need to know what is it that ties their neighborhood together, what socioeconomic or county issue or characteristic ties them together, and then what are the boundaries of the area that's tied together. And then we get that together, and then we do want to ask that clarifying question. Are you, for the purposes of this law, are you a community of interest because you would benefit from being kept together in one seat? And the last slide is we do pride ourselves on being engaging for the public. And we always say I did work down in Torrance, and so a resident drew a great map. And one of the council members asked me, you're the professional, are you insulted if we adopt a map that a resident drew? And I say, no, that is our favorite project. That's our goal, is to get the residents engaged, get the residents feeling empowered enough that they actually draw maps and they take all these criteria and all the public into consideration to where you actually adopt a map that was drawn by a resident. We do have local expertise. Mr. Yoakum lives in Elk Grove. Dr. Levitt, who's on the phone, actually lived in Natomas for a long time. So we do know the area, but we don't know it as well as you and as well as the people who live there every single day and travel to all these different parts of the county. So the tools are all about putting that in the hands of the public, whether they want a paper map, which has limited data on it, of course, all the way up to an online tool with all the demographic data that we have. And so that's our role in providing those tools. And with that, I will hand over to county staff to go through the outreach, unless you have questions you want to ask us now or you want to save them for the end.
Excuse me, one moment, Supervisor Cerna.
Right. Doug is reminding me too that I forgot to give you the numbers. My apologies.
Well, why don't you do that first? Because I think my question is going to be best applied to what you're going to show us.
Can you display them?
Can you show the numbers?
Can we put them up
Yeah,
in here?
with the white area.
There's a
there we go.
The white area, okay.
There you go.
So I don't know if it can zoom in on we just need the top part. Right up here. Look at that. It's magic. There we go. Oh,
There we go.
Perfect. Thank you.
These are estimates.
Yes, so want to emphasize that these are, as Doug just said, best guess estimates. If you followed the news about the census state totals that came out about a week ago, there were a lot of surprises in there, and we do expect surprises in the final data of the census as well. But looking at a combination of American Community Survey and then trying to back out some of the statistical noise that's in the ACS data, we end up at a total of the county of 1.4 million, a little over that. So that gets you a goal of about 309,000 people per district. And I'm rounding these numbers off because these are estimates. So you can see districts 1 and 2 are shown here. Again, about 310,000 and about 305,000. So just on either side of that 309,000 goal. So District 1 is over by about 0.4%, and District 2 is under by about 1.12%. So pretty darn close, especially given these are estimates. 3 and 4 are both a little farther short, at about a little over 3% in District 3, and a little over 5% in District 4. And they're short because District 5 is over. You can see District 5 is over by 29,000. Again, this is our estimates. We could easily be off by a couple of thousand one way or another. But that's what we're looking at, is essentially about 9% overpopulated in District 5, and those folks need to get into Districts 3 and 4. Often it's not a direct transfer. Often the transfer would go through another district on the way over there. But that's what you're looking at, of 3 and 4 needing to grow, 5 needing to shrink quite a bit, and then 1 and 2 just needing some fine tuning.
So to my question, do you have any specific advice for jurisdictions when the deviation from lowest to highest is fairly minimal? I mean, last time we went through this, it was a pretty involved iterative process, and sometimes it also garnered a lot of passionate deliberation and discussion up here. If I recall correctly, these numbers are much less
Volatile?
well, the deviation is much lower, it seems, than it was in 2010.
It's 70,000 more.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Is there, like, for instance, you mentioned District 1, the district I represent, is over by 1,331 people, or voters, people. So, would you say that, relative to fine tuning, that we focus much of the energy on some of the other areas, or what have you?
Right.
Because you started this by saying, well, if you're within 1%, well, I think we start from there here, don't we?
Right, and if all 5 districts were within 1%, we'd be walking out that door right now.
Could be out of business, right?
With a caveat, though. So the added twist, though, is the Fair Maps Act. Mm-hmm. So we have these new rules. So there's another piece of it, is you have to be population balanced, but you also have to be sure, essentially you have to make the record of that your map, if you want to keep the same districts, you have to make a record that your current lines also comply with Fair Maps Act. Now, if these numbers hold up, you're not going to be able to keep the same seats. But if you want to keep, for example, if it worked out that 1 and 2 didn't have to be changed and you didn't want to change them, if they're this close, you would still have to make the case and make a record that they comply with the Fair Maps Act requirements of being compact and contiguous and respecting neighborhoods as well. And you'll get a lot of that in the community input hearings. You'll hear from the public if they think that's true or not.
Thank you.
I'm sure if I could follow on. So just looking at the deviation, though, so the outside margin is 10%, and so what we're showing there, the outside margin up there is 9.40 and 5.3, so you're 14.7, right, between the highest and the lowest?
9 to -5.
Right, so you got a 14% difference. Okay, just, again, looking at that. But one of the things, and I think, again, there's a whole lot of criteria to take into account, but I know it occurred last time on a very limited basis, but that's the shifts of voters. And so when you look at the election cycles, the way it's set up with 1, 2, and 5 standing in the gubernatorial years and, 3 and 4 in the presidential years, that if you just did the straight math there, then that gets, you can talk about potentially a shift of, 25,000 voters who would expect that they'd be, having an election in 2022 and it'd get postponed. Now, we had that the last time around in Rancho Murrieta where it happened very quickly just because of the way the boundaries drew, but there may have been a couple other pockets in the county. So again, there's a lot of criteria, as you said, but I'm curious about now total population when you're looking at the population distribution for the defined, communities, your Hispanic, non-white, Black, and African American, or Asian American. So how does that line up from what you show there? Keeping communities of interest together, obviously those populations, and what's your take on what currently exists up there? Do those look out of whack?
Can you move that diagram up just slightly so that we
Yeah.
can see what he's talking about, yeah. So that we can
Oh, I
see
see.
yeah.
Yeah,
Talking about the citizen voting age line?
No, total population, your percentages of the,
Let me see if I understand your question. Are the communities that we pointed out in some of our heat maps?
Yes.
How are they treated currently, and do you think they should be treated differently?
right, that was a question of you.
That's
Again,
the
you-
question you were asking.
Yes, you got it, Doug.
yeah, and that's a question we'll defer. We haven't done that analysis. We're just kicking the process off now, and literally these numbers are still being revised and fine-tuned.
And we want to hear from those communities as well.
No, I get it, but I mean, you can look at that data and say, it's, and you're not going to say it, so I'm not pushing on, but either that's, either you're way out of alignment based upon, you've done some preliminary look at this or not, and again, so recognizing you're going to, we're going to go out to the community, I think having some assessment though, of, to Phil's point, he and I were here for the last go-round, and I was here for several previous rounds, what's the take on those distributions? Again, you're looking at population as being this, the federal guidelines potentially equal, but then you got this, the state guidelines and then the local, other things that you would, put into the mix. And so, again, at some point in time, I guess I'd like to hear from you, once you've done your assessment, and before we get too far into the process, to know how those alignments look based upon your own assessment of heat maps, and again, some of that won't be readily evident, I guess, until new census maps are out, but you've got a pretty good idea. I mean, obviously, you've got some data you're working off, and we're going to have to work off of that for a few months, so.
Well, and actually the citizen voting age population data that we have is the official citizen voting age population data. The only data that actually comes from the census is the total population counts. We do get ethnic data of the total population, but that's not what drives Voting Rights Act. It is the citizen voting age population data. But yes, we can put, and we will as this goes forward, we'll put the existing lines over those heat maps.
Okay.
So people can see where the current lines are and identify where they might differ or where they might appear to possibly be dividing it. But it is, as like I said, largely driven by public comment. And on the voting rights side, you get into a whole range. Once you can get to a majority Latino or a majority Asian American seat, then you get into a lot of legal opinions and legal evaluation that we'll obviously work with county council on. I should, by the way, I'm sure Dr. Levitt is in his mind screaming at me right now. When I said the 1.4 million, I was reading the wrong line. That's the 2010 number. The 2020 estimate is 1.54 million. So my apologies for that. Let me just be clear. That's where the 309 comes from, is 1.54 divided by 5.
One last comment then, I think, that goes to talking about communities of interest, neighborhoods, cities, and within the cities, there's that subset of defined neighborhoods, but there's also neighborhoods in the unincorporated area. We have community associations, long established, that been around for lots of previous census and redistricting proposals. So I just think it's going to be important to know, because again, if the goal is to use logical physical boundaries and all the other criteria that those neighborhoods and communities, because again, going back to the 2010 discussion or 11 discussion, that became a pretty critical aspect of some of the conversations about how neighborhoods and communities were going to be either bisected or trisected and or not, or kept whole. And again, my experience is, says that if you got a certain amount of having to give and having to take from those numbers up there, that's going to make this exercise a bit challenging. Again, we're not unique, but we're Sacramento County, and so I just think it's important that keep those in mind. And even in the rural areas, there are defined communities that may not have a lot of folks, but they certainly they look to stick together in a lot of cases. So, okay.
Your staff is next.
I just wanted to ask one, for the benefit of those who are looking in, the Indian community is included with the Asian community, is that correct? I have a lot of Indian community and also Slavic and Ukraine in my district, the Ukraine and Slavic are under white and the Indian is under Asian. Is that correct?
Correct. If people follow the census guidelines on how the census wants them to answer the form, that's correct. The subcontinent and what they call East Asia are considered Asian American by the census. And then you're right, Ukraine, Armenia, all those areas.
Iranian.
Are considered white.
I have a lot of them too, but
Yep.
they're white.
Under the census numbers, yes.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah. And forgive me, I if you see me duck out, I have a 5 o'clock, but Mr. Yoakum and Dr. Levitt will stay and answer any questions that.
Can we get a
after I
copy of
say.
this as well, please? Get a copy.
Yeah, I'd like to have a copy of the.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, thanks.
Any other questions for us, or if not, we'll.
We have no questions at this time. I believe staff were going to present, and then we'll move on to public comment after board questions. Thank you, gentlemen.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Courtney Bailey Canellis, Registrar of Voters for Sacramento County. I'm excited to be able to present to you today some outreach plans and ideas with our wonderful Public Information Director, Kim Nava. So we're teaming up here to work on community engagement and public outreach. So we're going to be presenting on a community engagement aspect and then also how we're going to then get that messaging out. We're hoping that with what we present today will help you with your decision on how you want to proceed with the redistricting process. We do know that regardless of whatever direction the board chooses, of course, public participation is going to play a major role. So we do ask for your feedback in any direction or thoughts you have as we move into this process. So the first thing that I think we really need to work on is defining what redistricting is. And not only, I think, are the communities of interest important in terms of obviously letting us know, the neighborhoods, socioeconomic status, but I think we really need their input to help us determine how we want to message and get people involved in redistricting and what that means on a county level. Someone that might be in Supervisor Cerna's district might have a different idea of redistricting, knowing that they have some services through the city, versus in Supervisor Desmond's area, being unincorporated, they might have a different reason to participate in the redistricting process. So we really want to hear from the community why it's important. And I know when I've been reading some redistricting outreach materials, I always hear the representation matters. Okay, but why does it matter on a county level? What does that mean to your constituents? What does that mean to services that we have here in the county? So I have actually received already a few phone calls from voters in the unincorporated area saying, will redistricting affect my services? And while my response is generally no, if you have a certain idea, or even your community or neighborhood has a certain idea on those services, we want to know. And I think kind of going back to what NDC talked about with communities of interest, knowing that we could really get into the weeds of what that is, I've been encouraging people to just let us know, regardless of if it's meeting that legal definition of communities of interest, let us know your thoughts. If you have a community that all feels the same way about certain policies that the county has, we want to know that. Whether we can consider it, well, we'll work together with county council, with our demographers to see how best to address that. And I think we really want to encourage that, one, because we don't want to spend all of our community engagement meetings just getting into the weeds of that particular topic. We will cover it, of course, but we also want to make sure that folks know, since we're on such a truncated timeline with redistricting, we want them to be able to send us everything they have ahead of time so that when we get the data, we can move forward and we already have a lot of their comments in place. So it will be important to note that while we are doing our redistricting efforts, other jurisdictions are going to be doing theirs as well. So as we come up with our messaging, we have to be very clear that this is our county redistricting efforts. Of course, the cities are going to be going through theirs, on a statewide level, especially knowing that California has lost a congressional seat. That's going to have a lot of attention. So we need to figure out how to message to say, why is it important on a county level? And that's where really I would ask for your help and feedback, as you have the direct correspondence with the constituents. It'd be great to hear your perspective on that. So then these are two actual quotes we had on redistricting here. So we get folks that are really involved, really engaged, care about the process, and then we hear folks that hear the word redistricting and they just have no interest in it whatsoever. So how do we tell these folks why it's important, why it matters to them? So with the community engagement aspect, some of this has already been in progress. We're going to be working with our county departments and services, our city clerks, local districts. We've already reached out with information on that. Businesses, our community-based organizations, and identifying those community trusted messengers and leaders to help spread the word on why this is important and why folks should engage. Of course, I will be doing this as well, but after the November election, I'm not winning any popularity contests. So definitely we want to make sure we have those community trusted messengers available as well. Senior living communities, that was actually a really interesting point NDC just made regarding that. Youth organizations, neighborhood associations, and we have 3 committees that are standing: elections committee that have made a commitment to working on redistricting. Our voting accessibility advisory committee, which works with our population of voters with disabilities. Our language accessibility advisory committee, so that when we do come up with some messaging and outreach, we can make sure that messaging makes sense and translates well. And then the Elections Community Advisory Committee as well. So these will be continuous monthly meetings that we've been holding and we'll continue to hold with an emphasis on redistricting. So community meetings, we've had, obviously, you heard from NDC regarding the legal requirements on what we need to do under the Fair Maps Act. But we know we have a lot more to do, and we want to start as early as possible. So we want to have meetings all throughout the county, whether it's virtual or in person. We, of course, I think are all hopeful that after June 15th, we'll be able to open up some more and have some in-person meetings. Of course, regardless, we would make sure we would follow proper COVID protocols and be able to do so safely. And also see if there's possible hybrid options available as well. So we also know from doing Voters' Choice Act workshops, when we implemented the new voting model in Sacramento County, that when we host workshops on our own, we get very poor attendance. So we're going to look to join existing community events, even if they give us just 5 minutes to talk about it, to get the word out on where folks can find more information on that. We will have some translated materials, and Kim Nava will talk more about that. We will also have existing maps so folks can see the supervisorial districts as they stand now. We want to be available for Q&A because we know this process, as we just learned with the communities of interest, there's going to be a lot of questions. So we want to make sure we're available to answer those questions and also demo the mapping tools. So we really want to use the summer to let folks know what redistricting is, why it's important, and here's the tools to submit your participation, whether you do it through a map, through paper method, or even just comments you have to our main email address. Because again, once that data comes out at the end of September, it's going to go very fast. So we want to make sure we get as much community input over the summer as possible. So we will be having some training with the mapping tools, which we hope with some estimation data. It won't be the final data that we'll be able to use on the mapping tools. but we want to make sure people can learn about the tools, get familiar with it, so again, when the time comes, they're ready to submit their input, their communities of interest. So we have our redistricting website up that is live, thanks to the great work of DTech and the Public Information Office. So if you do have any feedback, comments on messaging ideas, or if the community would like any speaker requests, presentations, you can email or call me, or our new designated email of redistricting@saccounty.net. And so now Kim Nava will come up to talk about the how we're going to get that messaging out, and also how to make sure the board and the public stay updated on the redistricting process.
Thanks, Flo. Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm Kim Nava, Public Information Director, and I will be presenting our public outreach plan. Let's see. I'll move it forward. Oh. Okay, here we go. Thanks. Yes, got it. Okay, so the purpose of the public outreach plan is to engage, promote, and urge participation by Sacramento County residents in the redistricting process. Well, this is a big job. So how do we do this? One, we promote the use of the redistricting website. Of course, utilize the Sacramento County communication vehicles, building on our existing organizational networks, and developing and sharing promotional and informational toolkits in multiple languages. And I'll explain each of these tactics in this presentation. So Courtney just mentioned the redistricting website. This website will be the primary source to disseminate all redistricting information and materials. The website is now live with basic information about redistricting, and we put the most crucial information front and center, which are 3 questions that people want to know. First of all, what is redistricting? Why is redistricting important? And how can the public participate in redistricting? And your eyes are not deceiving you. The box on the far right does not say, how can the public participate in redistricting? And this is an example of how this website will be a living, breathing, evolving website. This is version 1.0 or version 1.5 now with that change. And we'll continue to grow with more information as we add more information and materials while we go further along in the redistricting process. It also lists on the homepage several versions of the county's current maps, including by supervisorial district, the Find Your District tool, where users can enter their address if they aren't familiar with what district they're in, the unincorporated areas of the county, the incorporated cities, county communities, which, as NDC mentioned before, are the census designated places in Sacramento. All 14 of them mentioned before: Arden Arcade, Franklin, Antelope, Wilton, Florin, etc. And then specific area maps, and these include fire districts, zip code zones, and school districts, so people really get a sense of where things are within the county. Also part of the website is information about public meetings and hearings. At the moment, it indicates the minimum number of hearings that we'll have before adopting the final map. Of course, we will have more than those. And when public hearings and workshops are scheduled, we will have a list of those meetings as well as the meeting calendar. A recording or summary of each one of the hearings will be uploaded and available to view after each meeting. We're also waiting for the mapping software, and once that becomes available, we'll publish to our webpage with instructions on how to use it and other ways for the public to submit maps of district boundaries. And of course, it wouldn't be a website without frequently asked questions. Right now we have questions at the very basic level. Once meetings are planned and more information is available, we will add to that FAQ list. And it's also important to note that website users can access different languages by using the Google Translator tool that's at the top right of every page of the website. So what are the county communication vehicles? Of course, the website, which I've just mentioned. The county also has social media platforms that are amazingly effective mechanisms to get messaging out to our audiences. Of course, we have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Nextdoor, and YouTube. We also have established a dedicated email in which we can receive feedback from the public and take individual questions. And as Courtney mentioned, that's redistricting@saccounty.net. We will distribute information via our GovDelivery email and distribution system. We have not only our established lists where this information will go out on Sacramento County news and press release list, as well as the board agenda list. All of those lists have well more than 50,000 recipients. We also have a dedicated Redistricting 2021 list, which is currently at 290 people and growing, which is amazing considering a week ago we were at 150 and we haven't officially launched the redistricting website yet. By signing up for these emails, individuals and organizations will receive notifications of agenda items, meetings, public hearings, workshops, redistricting plan submission process, and other related information. They'll get toolkits in many languages too, which I will talk about in a bit. So other vehicles. Of course, there's the media. Goals for approaching the media will include building awareness among Sacramento County residents of redistricting. We'll drive residents to the website to learn more about redistricting. Hopefully motivate residents to attend public hearings and submit input into the redistricting of maps. Generate awareness about redistricting among residents, including residents who may be learning about redistricting for the first time, or maybe it's the first time they want to engage in redistricting. We will leverage our multicultural media to reach Sacramento County's diverse populations. And of course, we will utilize paid advertising for communities and areas where the message may not be resonating, or if public participation in our initial meetings are low. In that case, we will buy media time and social media ads as necessary. We have, of course, our digital sign at Highway 99. We've got one message that generally holds for about 8 seconds for a 1 minute cycle. We have quite a few eyes on that digital sign. In a week, we have more than 440,000 folks who see that information. And we have our Sacramento County newsletter. The target audience for our Sacramento County newsletter are residents in underrepresented neighborhoods in the unincorporated county, people who may not have access to broadband. This is mailed to more than 80,000 addresses and in the unincorporated county. And of course, we have our printed materials, which we will have in our toolkit. These will need to be clear, concise materials in plain language. This is especially important for any translations. And Supervisor Cerna, I'm glad you mentioned communities of interest. Part of the toolkit will be a template for community members who have a community interest, and will help them testify about what their community interest is and why they think it's important. It has a script, it's got ideas about what they should say, and this will be a tool that we'll be using for folks who want to identify those. Of course, we have our internal communication. Weekly e-newsletters will have regularly scheduled items about the county's redistricting efforts. County staff are important ambassadors for this work, as this is a major initiative for the county. And of course, public meeting and events. This will be essential in our outreach as we literally meet people where they are to provide information and get feedback from our residents. And of course, it's not on the slides, but I will put your board in there. I don't want to refer to you as a vehicle, but certainly you do communicate with your constituents and your residents, and we are hopeful and imagine that you'll help us with those communication efforts and specifically how to talk to residents in your districts. And of course, building on existing networks. Sacramento County has a unique opportunity given the community-based and other organizations that we've already worked with for both Census 2020 and COVID-19 outreach. We'll also be working with businesses, special districts, faith-based organizations, and other networks. We'll engage those networks for assistance with outreach for redistricting and develop toolkits in multiple languages for promoting redistricting events and information. Now, I've been in communication with contacts from the networks, particularly with the COVID-19 organizations, asking for assistance in reaching their specific communities. And I'm so pleased to say that all the replies have not only been affirmative, they've been enthusiastic in their willingness to partner with us to disseminate information about redistricting meetings and toolkits to their communities. Of course, we're also engaging the public information officers in Sacramento County, in the Sacramento region, including those in the incorporated cities and special districts. We'll send all our outreach materials to 211, who of course have operators who speak multiple languages who will be able to answer questions. And on to the toolkits. Legally, we have to provide information in English, Spanish, and Chinese, but as you can see from this list, we are going the extra step and translating into at least 7 additional languages. These languages include the county's threshold languages, which are defined as languages that are identified as the primary language of residents for at least 5% of the service population. However, I also worked with DHA and DHS for additional languages from their client lists, and you can see those represented here. Of course, we can add more as needed as we work with our community-based organizations and others such as yourself. The toolkits for medium residents will include talking points, electronic flyers and handouts, and suggested text for messages via Twitter, Facebook, Nextdoor, and other social media platforms. Once the board approves the redistricting process, we can immediately proceed with sharing information, outreach materials, and meetings once those are scheduled. We have the county redistricting process flyer all ready to go to the translator tomorrow morning, and we'll post to the website and send a news story out next week introducing the media and the public to view the website and sign up for more information. And that concludes my presentation.
Very, very well organized, and one of the first things that comes to my mind is we don't have a lot of time. Really, December will come so fast by the time we work our way through this. I do not have any board members in the queue to speak, and so I wonder if we have any public comments.
We do have a few public comments. Could you please transfer the first caller?
And Dr. Johnson, if you have to leave, we want to thank you for being here and appreciate your attendance today.
Thank you very much.
Hi, caller. Please start with your comments. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, this is Paula Lee. I'm the Advocacy Director for the League of Women Voters of Sacramento County. And you might know that the League at the state level was instrumental in getting an independent commission for California, Prop 11, many years ago. And we've been advocating for local independent commissions across California and the country as well. Just a minute, I'm sorry. So gone are the backroom deals and paying a ransom for a district drawn to suit a particular person or party at the state level. When district lines are redrawn to accomplish any political ends or gerrymandered, it often comes at the expense of fair representation, and that's the principal reason for redistricting. So locally, the League and Common Cause advocated for an independent commission for the city of Sacramento, and it was approved. The city just seated their independent commission. And we hope before the next round of redistricting that the county will have one. But for now, you have a board managed process that looks good. We're part of a coalition of community groups, and we'll be encouraging heavy civic engagement on redistricting. So we're really pleased with our amazing county registrar of voters for her team's comprehensive outreach plan that will include all communities and languages, and really pleased with the public participation kit provided by the consultant as well that has the mapping tools, because it'll empower residents to submit their own maps. These efforts to engage with the community will be especially important here in the county where there's not an independent commission making final decisions on the boundaries.
You have 15 seconds.
Community organizations will be closely watching this process in the city and county to monitor compliance with the Fair Maps Act. Thanks.
Thank you.
Please send the next caller. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess that was the only caller.
Only
That
one?
concludes your public comments. Yes.
Miracles happen in Sacramento County every day. I don't know what to say. I'm speechless. Okay. So at this time, we are at a point where I don't see any further questions. We're looking for a motion to direct the staff to proceed either with their recommendation, which is a board-managed process, which looks very well organized. And I would be delighted to make that motion. And I have a second from Supervisor Desmond. And please vote.
And that's a unanimous vote with those members present.
Great, thank you. And I want to especially thank, I believe it's Dr. Justin Levitt on the phone, Dr. Johnson and Doug Yoakum for being here today, and thank staff for having such a well-organized plan. I'm looking forward to it unfolding. I don't know if you have a flyer that you've already gotten to our offices, but if you do, we can help get that out also. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item, please.